The cold bites deeper in Siachen than any other place on Earth. It isn't just the cold that chills your bones, it's the weight of silence that settles over the glacier, broken only by the whisper of the wind or the sudden cracking of ice. Here, at 21,000 feet above sea level, life clings by a thread, yet there stands the final frontier of India, Siachen Base Camp. Flanked by Pakistan, China, and not far from Afghanistan, it is more than a strategic outpost. It is a beating heart of resilience. For decades, Indian soldiers have manned this post, braving snowstorms, avalanches, sub-zero temperatures, and oxygen-starved air. The enemies think the isolation makes it easy pickings, but they're wrong. Not because of the harsh climate alone, but because of something else, something unseen. Whispers about an invisible protector began decades ago. Veterans spoke in hushed tones about something guarding Siachen. It was neither ghost nor man, but a force, a protector. Call it the spirit of the Himalayas or something older, an ancient sentinel forged from ice and patriotism. Soldiers would joke about it, until it slapped them awake, literally. Young sepoys on night duty who dozed off were jolted awake by a hard slap, but no one else would be around. It was as if the mountain itself had grown eyes. Some reported dreams. Soldiers would suddenly wake, panting, swearing they had seen an ambush in their sleep. Minutes later, intelligence would confirm suspicious activity. It became a pattern, dreams that saved lives, a force that warned before danger. Captain Arav Singh, posted at Siachen in December 2024, didn't believe in such stories. A hard-nosed officer, decorated, rational. He called the rumors folklore, hallucinations induced by altitude, until the winter night of February 17, 2025. China and Pakistan, desperate and growing bolder, had finally joined hands in a covert plan. Under the guise of a joint weather study, their special operatives were inserted via stealth helicopters in the dead of night to a location just 7 kilometers east of the Siachen base. Their goal was brutal and simple: capture Siachen by dawn, plant flags, and humiliate India before the world. What they didn't plan for was the Guardian. It began at 2:43 a.m. Captain Arav was reviewing supply logs in the command tent when a sudden gust of wind blew the papers off the table. He turned to close the flap, but his breath caught in his throat. Outside, across the snowy field, a figure stood, tall, glowing faintly blue in the whiteout. It had no face, no eyes, just a presence. The wind howled louder. The figure lifted a hand and pointed northeast. Then it vanished. The alarm was sounded. Soldiers scrambled. Drones launched. The initial response team, 10 commandos with night vision goggles, headed in the direction the figure pointed. What they found shook them to the core. Enemy bodies. Dozens. Some were frozen in unnatural positions, faces contorted in terror. Others looked as if they had drowned, lungs filled with snow, though they wore oxygen masks. A few had burns, as if touched by lightning, yet the skies were clear. Their weapons were crushed, mangled, warped as if twisted by invisible hands. And at the center, a circle burned into the ice. A perfect radius, black and steaming. There was no sign of a fight. No bullets fired from the Indian side. Just annihilation. From the base camp, through binoculars, Arav and his second-in-command, Lieutenant Randeep, watched the spectacle unfold. They saw, hovering briefly above the circle, a shape. It wasn't human. It was vast, winged like a bird of snow, with eyes that glowed like dying stars. And then nothing. Within moments, radio chatter picked up from Pakistani and Chinese frequencies. Panic, screaming, officers yelling at their troops to retreat, their plans disintegrating in confusion and horror. None of them made it out. Back at the base camp, the wind calmed. The temperature, which had plunged to -45, suddenly rose by 5 degrees. Snow stopped. and from the ridge, footprints appeared in the snow, single steps, crisp, and too far apart for any man to have made. The soldiers stood in silence, watching the prince walk past them toward the frozen abyss, then fade into the white. In Delhi, intelligence agencies were baffled. Satellite imagery showed strange heat signatures in the region during the time of the incident. Thermal scans suggested movement, but with no explanation. The enemy had lost 73 men. India lost none. When news of the failed operation leaked, Pakistan and China both denied it ever happened. They blamed weather, equipment malfunction, fiction. But in the Indian camps at Siachen, soldiers knew the truth. They began placing an extra ration bowl near the tent entrance each evening. Not for a man, for the protector. They began calling it Himrakshak, the Guardian of the Himalayas. Every morning, that bowl was empty. New recruits are told the stories. Some laugh. Until they sleep. Until the dreams come. Until they find themselves being shaken awake by an unseen hand just as the sensors pick up movement at the perimeter. Siachen remains India's highest and most dangerous military post. But to this day, not a single enemy foot has ever claimed it. Because when the weather fails to stop the invader, the Guardian rises. And no man, no matter how trained, how stealthy, or how cruel, can escape its wrath. India sleeps safely, because in the cold, something always watches.